Sam and I were married for 7 years, and for 7 years, he kept a mistress. When I got pregnant, he cut ties with her completely and returned to the family. He cooked for me and accompanied me to my prenatal checkups. But on the day the mistress married someone else, Sam, looking lost, went to crash the wedding. They embraced tightly, both wearing smiles of joy from being reunited. I gave a bitter smile to myself and went to the hospital the next day for an abortion. When Sam rushed over in a panic, I had already undergone the procedure and handed him the divorce papers. His eyes instantly reddened, and with a sob, he asked, "Ruby, you gave up the child. Are you going to give up on me too?" I closed my eyes for a moment and softly said, "Sam, it's been 7 years. I should have given up on you a long time ago." Chapter 01. Are you sure you don't want this baby? As the doctor confirmed once more if I truly wanted to go through with the abortion, my phone screen lit up. It was a message from Sam on WeChat. "Honey, my business trip ended early, and I'll be home tonight. Are you excited? Did you throw up a lot while I was gone? What do you want to eat tonight? I can cook. Or do you want to eat out? I know a new steakhouse that's supposed to be amazing. Why aren't you answering me? Are you sleeping, honey, or feeling unwell? You little rascal, making your mom suffer so much. Just wait till you come out. Your dad's going to give you a spanking." Every word was filled with Sam's care for me, and his anticipation for our unborn child. Ever since I got pregnant and started experiencing severe morning sickness, he had taken it upon himself to cook for me. 3 meals a day, never missing one. Every time I had a prenatal checkup, he accompanied me, saying he wanted to be part of the baby's growth. He seemed like the perfect husband and a father-to-be. But who would have thought that this same man would crash someone else's wedding, that he would tightly embrace another bride, vowing never to be separated again. At that moment, did he think of me, of our unborn child? The phone screen continued to light up. I turned it face down, no longer wanting to look. Taking a deep breath, I told the doctor, "Yes, I don't want this baby anymore." Chapter 02. The doctor told me to check into the hospital for the abortion tomorrow, so I went home for now. As soon as I opened the door and changed my shoes, I was pulled into a warm embrace. "Honey," Sam's deep, magnetic voice sounded from above my head. "I was only gone for 5 days, but I missed you so much. Did you and the baby miss me too?" Before I could respond, he cupped my cheek and kissed me. My body stiffened, and I instinctively struggled. It was strange. This was the embrace I used to long for, the kiss I could never get enough of. But now, I found myself resisting, noticing my distraction. Sam seemed dissatisfied. He tightened his grip on my waist and deepened the kiss. And that's when it hit me. The familiar cold pine scent on him was now mixed with a cloying sweetness, pear blossom. It instantly reminded me of yesterday, when he had publicly crashed the wedding, embracing Miranda tightly and kissing her tenderly. His face had lit up with the joy of reunion. He said, "Miranda, I almost lost you." And then he said, "We'll never be apart again. We'll always be together." In his arms was Miranda, the mistress he'd kept for 7 years throughout our marriage, the woman he'd broken up with and reunited with again. She cried like a delicate flower, pounding on his back. She complained, "Why did you arrive here later? Just a little longer, and I would have married someone else." They hugged and kissed in the rain. It was just like a scene out of a romance novel. The crowd, unaware of the truth, snapped photos of them, a handsome man and a beautiful woman. How romantic. And I, Sam's wife, I was just an outsider, standing in the shadows, secretly watching their happiness. The thought of Sam's arms, holding someone else yesterday and then coming to hold me today, made my stomach churn. I bent over and dry heaved. Sam quickly supported me, concerned. "What's wrong?" "Nothing." I pushed his hand away and forced a smile. "Sam, didn't you say there's a good steakhouse? I want some steak." Sam smiled immediately and gently ruffled my hair. "All right, whatever you want." Chapter 03. The steakhouse Sam mentioned was near the university. He chose a seat by the window and, with familiarity, ordered 2 steaks, one well done for me, and one medium rare for himself. When the steaks arrived, he carefully cut mine into small pieces, removing the tough tendons. "Ruby, you can't eat anything raw while you're pregnant." The server, who had just brought the food, looked at us with envy. "Ma'am, your husband is so good to you. How thoughtful." I smiled, saying nothing, only looking at Sam across the table. I remembered that he never ate beef, or anything raw or undercooked. Once, I had my friend Olivia, who was studying in Japan, send me a bluefin tuna so I could make him sashimi. He didn't even look at it before throwing it out. Coldly, he said, "Ruby, I don't eat raw food. We've been married for so many years, and you still don't remember that?" Yet here he was, eating piece after piece without hesitation. The restaurant's old decor, dim lighting, clashed with his tailored suit and polished demeanor. After 3 years of dating and 7 years of marriage, I knew exactly what kind of person Sam was. Proud, aloof. He would never set foot in a dingy little restaurant like this. The only explanation was that it was for his mistress, Miranda. Steak was Miranda's favorite. This was the place he often took her. For her, he had learned how to cook, learned how to be thoughtful. Every change he made was for another woman. If I hadn't gotten pregnant, would he have cut things off with Miranda? Would he have come back to our family? I thought. Most likely not. A lump formed in my throat, and a sharp pain spread through my chest. At that moment, Sam's phone screen lit up. He immediately swiped it open, and a few seconds later, a doting smile appeared on his face. I asked him, "What's making you so happy?" The moment he looked up at me, the tenderness in his eyes hadn't fully faded. He chuckled lightly. "Just a cute video of a kitten. If you like them, after the baby is born, we can get one." I responded with a simple, "Oh." Suddenly, I asked him, "The weather is nice tonight. Can you take me to the beach?" Sam froze for a moment, then instinctively refused. "There's some work I still need to deal with at the office." Even though he had just returned from a business trip, lowering my gaze, I opened my social media. Among the people I followed, a user with a kitten as their profile picture had posted something new. Romantic preview. "Tonight, we'll chase the blue tears together." Chapter 04. Sam still drove me home. He didn't know that as soon as he stepped out, I followed him. Miranda is a mid-tier romance blogger. Her profile picture? The kitten she and Sam had adopted together. I discovered Sam's affair thanks to that very profile picture. It started when he was on a business trip, and we had a video call, even though he never liked pets much. Suddenly, a fluffy blue golden British short hair appeared behind him. It was really cute. Except for one thing, this cat had a shorter tail, as if it had been injured. That made it very easy to recognize. "Sam, where did the kitten come from?" "A colleague's," I asked casually, and he answered casually. But that's when I started to uncover his affair. After that day, I randomly came across a video of that exact kitten. The account owner was named Pear Blossom, and her profile picture was the same kitten, presumably the owner of the cat. Sam's colleague? I clicked into her page, hoping to see more videos of the kitten, but the more I watched, the more alarmed I became. In her posts, Sam kept appearing. At first, it was just the corner of his clothes, a glimpse of his watch. Then it progressed to his back, pictures of them holding hands during the Chishi festival. Eventually, there were even photos of them lying in bed, kissing. As I kept scrolling, I reached the very first post, dated 7 years ago. In the photo, Sam had just married me and had just taken over the company. Full of confidence and ambition, he had gone to a university to give a speech as a successful entrepreneur, and Miranda was the person assigned to greet him. Her caption read, "Striving to be closer to successful people." From that point on, it was a chronicle of a college girl relentlessly pursuing her idol. It was only then that I finally realized where Sam had spent all those holidays and anniversaries he missed. I also learned about the twists and turns in their relationship. 2 months ago, they broke up. Pear Blossom posted a month's worth of breakup diaries, one after the other. Then, one day, she stopped being sad and announced her upcoming wedding. The wedding date was yesterday. Pinned at the top of her profile was a post from the early hours of yesterday. It showed two hands, fingers intertwined. On their ring fingers were matching wedding bands. For the rest of our lives, we will never be apart again. Just now, a new post appeared. The blue tears did not disappoint, like tracing the path of the Milky Way. And neither did you. Happy to be reunited. Chapter 05. I watched them from a distance for a long time, standing there as they kissed. I stood there long enough for them to leave hand in hand before I finally let out a bitter laugh and started walking home. The house was cold and empty. This was the home Sam and I had shared since our wedding. But for years, it's been only me living here. By the time I finished packing for my hospital stay tomorrow, it was nearly midnight. Sam still hadn't come back. Over an hour ago, he had texted me saying he wouldn't be home tonight. Before I got pregnant, he often didn't come home at night. But in the 2 months since he broke up with Miranda, he had been with me every night, except when traveling for work. People are strange that way. Once you get used to someone's kindness, it becomes unbearable to go back to the cold indifference of before. Sam, why did you give me hope, only to let me down again? I pulled out the ultrasound picture, gently tracing the tiny figure with my fingers. Tears fell silently. 3 months. She already had little hands and feet. Child, it's not that your mother doesn't want you, but if you're born into a family where your father can't fully love you, your childhood won't be happy. I picked up my suitcase and headed for the door. Before I left him a note. He would see it as soon as he got home. Going to visit Olivia for a few days. Don't disturb me. The car's engine roared to life. The farther I got from the house Sam and I shared, the more I wondered. If Sam knew that tonight was his last chance to save this child, his last chance to save us, would he regret it? The next time we see each other, it will probably be for the divorce. Chapter 06. The next morning, I went to the hospital. While handling the admission paperwork, I ran into Elena, the doctor who had been helping me prepare my body for pregnancy over the years. She smiled and said, "Congratulations. After all those years of trying, all those shots and medications, you finally got what you wished for. Your husband must be thrilled. You're 3 months along now, right?" She glanced at my stomach, her face full of genuine joy. Instinctively, I placed a hand on my still flat belly and forced a smile. "Yes, 3 months." Hearing this, Elena's smile deepened. 3 months is a safe point. Just then, she noticed the hospital admission form in my hand and furrowed her brow. "Why are you being admitted? Are you feeling unwell? Do you need my help?" Looking at her concerned expression, I suddenly felt a lump in my throat, fighting back the tears that threatened to fall. I shook my head. "Doctor, the reason I'm being admitted is, it's for an abortion." Elena's frown deepened. "Why would you have an abortion? Is there something wrong with the baby's development?" "No, it's because of me," Elena sighed, her face full of regret. "This child wasn't easy to come by. You've been coming to see me for pregnancy treatments for, what, 7 years? I still remember the first time I saw you, holding your husband's hand, begging me to help you have a child. You know this might be your only chance to be pregnant. Does your husband know you don't want this child?" I shook my head lightly. Elena's expression shifted to one of understanding, and I knew she got it. She gently patted my shoulder, her face filled with sympathy. "Girl, if your parents knew how much pain and sadness you're going through, just imagine how much their hearts would ache. If normal parents knew their daughter was suffering like this, they would want to tear that man apart. But I don't have parents. Sam is my only family in this world. He's the one who gave warmth to my life when I lost both parents at 18. And at 21, he gave me a home. Over the years, as his career took off, he started neglecting me more and more. I didn't blame him. I always thought, if we had a child, maybe his heart would finally settle down. Maybe our cold, empty house would feel like a home." And I was right. In a way, I'll never forget the moment I told him I was pregnant. He was over the moon. He picked me up and spun me around in circles. He said, "Ruby, honey, I've never been this happy. I'm going to be a dad." I'll never forget the joy I felt when I realized he had cut off ties with that other woman. For the sake of our child, for the sake of our family, But I was wrong, so wrong. From the very beginning, I was wrong. Cheating isn't something that happens once. It's endless. It's never something that should be forgiven. The moment Sam started keeping a woman on the side, our future was over. I know how difficult it is to have this child. The endless injections, the constant medication, the countless tests and hospital visits, and Sam's parents' endless disdain. But I can't keep this child, just to spend the rest of my life tangled up with the wrong man. I have to be myself first before I can be anything else. Chapter 07. I thought Sam would quickly realize I wasn't at home, but I was wrong. It's been 3 days since I was admitted to the hospital, and he hasn't called. This means that in the past 3 days, he hasn't been home and hasn't seen the note I left him. Miranda is back, and Sam has returned to being the cold and distant man I know. Here's your medication for today. I took the 3 small white pills from the nurse and swallowed them silently. These pills, called misoprostol, would easily end my child's life. The nurse told me I should walk around after taking the medication. So, I wandered through the hospital, quietly waiting for the medication to take effect. When I reached the outpatient clinic, from a distance, I suddenly saw 2 familiar figures. My husband, who I hadn't seen for 3 days, was accompanying another woman to her appointment. Miranda's delicate face was full of grievance. Sam, I don't know why this pain is happening. It's because you're too good. Don't be mad at me, okay? Sam pinched the bridge of his nose, his expression showing a hint of impatience. Miranda, you've gone a bit too far this time. You know full well that my wife. He hadn't even finished speaking before Miranda's tears started falling. She threw herself into Sam's arms, trembling as she said, Sam, please don't leave me. I'm just scared you'll leave me again. Sam sighed and wrapped his arms around her waist. His expression softened, and he spoke gently. As long as you don't provoke Ruby, I won't leave you. Miranda nodded obediently, but her eyes were filled with dissatisfaction. She wiped away her tears, took Sam's hand, and playfully swung it back and forth, her face full of anticipation. Sam, I want to go to Disneyland. We can't get married, but we should at least go on a honeymoon, right? Just for a day. It won't interfere with you taking her to her next checkup, please? Sam gently tapped her nose, smiling indulgently. All right, if I counted the days, tomorrow would be the day Sam was supposed to accompany me to set up my prenatal checkup card. I let out a bitter laugh. I thought I didn't care about him anymore, but seeing this scene, my heart still ached. Even my stomach started to ache. I gradually realized the medication was beginning to take effect, and I clutched my abdomen. Sitting down on a bench, a wave of pain hit me, making me tremble and break out in a cold sweat. Once the pain subsided, I lifted my head again, and there was Miranda, standing in front of me, her face full of smiles. Chapter 08. My boyfriend went to get the car. I hope it's okay if I sit here? Without waiting for my response, she sat down next to me, tilting her head as she smiled and said, Nice to meet you. Let me introduce myself. I'm Miranda, Sam's girlfriend. She emphasized the word girlfriend heavily. Sam and I have been together for 7 years. You know that, right? And you must also know that for all these years, Valentine's Day, Chi-Chi, New Year's, Sam spent them all with me. Even on your 7th wedding anniversary, he was with me the entire day. And you? You were crying, calling him, hoping he'd come to you. How pathetic. She giggled, her beautiful eyes sparkling with ambition. You're really good at putting up with things, aren't you? If I were you, I would have stepped aside a long time ago. I turned my head to look at her, suppressing the increasing pain in my abdomen, and coldly said, Are you done? If you are, please leave. This is a hospital. What right do you have to make me leave? Miranda raised her voice, questioning me. Hearing this, I suddenly raised an eyebrow and smiled. The only reason you're telling me all of this is because you know you'll never marry Sam. As long as we're not divorced, you're nothing but the other woman. Miranda shot up from her seat, tilting her chin up and looking down at me. She stamped her foot, furious. You're only holding on because of that piece of meat in your belly. If you weren't pregnant, Sam wouldn't even want to look at you. Let me tell you the truth, I'm already preparing for pregnancy. Once I'm pregnant, Sam will definitely divorce you. Whether Sam wanted to have a child with her or whether he would divorce me no longer mattered, because the pain in my stomach had become unbearable. My vision darkened, and whatever Miranda was saying, I couldn't hear anymore. Another sharp wave of pain hit, followed by a sudden gush of warmth from below. I couldn't hold on any longer. My body went limp, and I collapsed from the chair. With the last bit of strength I had left, I grabbed Miranda's hand, begging her to get a doctor, but she was already terrified by the scene in front of her. Mumbling, "It wasn't me. It wasn't me," she ran off without looking back. Chapter 09. I fell into unconsciousness. In a daze, I saw countless people in white and green clothing surrounding me. So many unfamiliar and panicked voices echoed around me. So much blood. How is she losing this much blood? Hurry, hurry, get Dr. Elena. Tell her there's a patient hemorrhaging, she needs immediate help. Soon, I heard Elena's voice. She held my hand, the always composed Elena, now anxiously shouting my name. Ruby, can you hear me? I wanted to open my eyes, but my eyelids felt like they didn't belong to me. Heavy and immovable, I wanted to raise my hand, to tell her that I could hear her, but my hand wouldn't move. Elena's voice came again, take her to the OR. Quickly! Stay with me, don't sleep, you have to hold on, I will save you. As they moved me onto the operating table, blood continued to pour out. Prepare the gauze, we need to pack the uterus. It's not working. Doctor, the bleeding won't stop. How much blood has she lost? 2,000 milliliters. Open her up. Prepare to ligate the uterine artery. Use the B-Lynch suture. A long time passed. Maybe just a few minutes. I heard the beeping alarms from the machines, followed by the anesthesiologist's exclamation. She's lost 3,500 milliliters. This is bad. The patient is in shock. There was more frantic movement. More tubes were attached to me. I heard panicked voices. Doctor, we can't stop the bleeding. She's losing too much blood. Why didn't the person with her call for help earlier? Let's remove the uterus. Elena shouted angrily. No, she hasn't had a child yet. We can't remove it unless we have no other choice. Get blood. Request more from the blood bank. Right now, they're requiring a blood donor card. Where's her family? Where's Ruby's husband? He needs to donate blood. Call the family. If they don't come soon, she won't make it. Sam, he must be on his way to Disneyland with Miranda. We can't reach him on the phone. Call again. Still no answer. Keep trying. What could possibly be more important than saving his own wife's life? In the end, I didn't know if they ever reached Sam. I could feel my strength draining away. My body no longer felt like my own. Right before I lost consciousness entirely, I think I heard Sam's panicked, desperate voice. It was nearly a scream, calling my name. Ruby. Chapter 10. An endless darkness wrapped around me, and my eyelids felt impossibly heavy. I could hear the beeping of machines, and Sam's voice. He was angry, shouting at someone. Why did she have an abortion? Without our consent. Who gave you the right to do this to my wife? Why did she lose so much blood? She was in the hospital. For God's sake. Why didn't you catch this sooner? Did you have to wait for a hemorrhage to act? You killed our child. Just wait. I'm the CEO of this corporation, and I'm going to sue this hospital into bankruptcy. He asked so many whys in a row. Anyone who heard him would think he was such a caring husband. But all the doctors present had been involved in the rescue efforts. One of them, visibly upset, retorted, "Sir, please calm down. Without the patient's signature, we would never have administered abortion medication." Sam burst out laughing, as if he had just heard the most ridiculous joke. What are you talking about? My wife would never have an abortion on her own. Do you know how many medications she's taken to keep this baby? How many injections has she endured? This is the child we've been waiting for 7 years. How could she possibly not want it? Then I heard the doctor show him something. It must have been the abortion consent form I had signed. Sam glanced at it briefly, and when he saw my name at the bottom, his face turned red with rage. Suddenly, he tore the consent form into shreds. Enraged, he grabbed the doctor by the collar and shouted, "You forged this, didn't you? My wife loves me so much. There's no way she would have aborted my child. Let me think. What's the penalty for forging a signature?" I couldn't bear to hear any more. I wanted so badly to wake up and tell him it wasn't the doctor's fault. It was me. I'm the one who didn't want our child. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't open my eyes. All I could hear was the sound of his fist, hitting the doctor again and again, until another familiar voice broke through. "Sam, stop. If you don't stop, I'm going to call the police." The moment I heard that voice, 2 tears slipped down my cheeks. It was my best friend, Olivia. Olivia stepped forward and grabbed Sam, who had completely lost control, giving him a hard kick. "Sam, how dare you blame the doctors? Don't you want to know why Ruby decided to have an abortion? Let me tell you. Because she already knew you were cheating on her. You scumbag. You've been deceiving her this whole time. If you don't love her, if you don't care about her, why didn't you just let her go sooner?" Sam staggered, the last shred of hope extinguished. Olivia, still furious, kicked him again and coldly added, "Sam, if I had arrived even a little later today, Ruby would be dead. Tell me, when Ruby was hemorrhaging and needed a family member to donate blood, where were you?" "I was." Sam's pupils suddenly contracted, and he fell silent. The room went eerily quiet, with only the beeping of the heart monitor breaking the silence. And then, my weak, hoarse voice whispered, "You were with Miranda." Chapter 11. When they saw me wake up, both Sam and Olivia rushed to my side. They both spoke at once. "Wife, you're awake. Ruby, how do you feel?" I automatically ignored Sam and turned my attention to Olivia. "Why did you come back?" "The night before I was admitted to the hospital, my heart was in turmoil. After thinking it through, I realized that Olivia was the only person I could confide in, but I didn't expect that this dear friend would fly all the way from Japan just for me. She saved me." Olivia's face was still pale from donating blood. Her eyes filled with tears as she held my hand, her face full of worry. "Ruby, I was so scared. I almost lost you." I held her hand tightly, my voice soft as I comforted her. "Don't cry. See? I'm fine now. We're going to be best friends for life." After reassuring Olivia, I turned my gaze to Sam, who had been standing behind her the entire time. "Sam." I called his name. He quickly pushed past Olivia, rushing to my side, his eyes filled with affection and concern. "I'm here, wife. I was wrong. I know I was wrong. I promise. From now on, I'll always be by your side. I also promise I'll cut off all contact with Miranda. I'll delete her number right now." I interrupted him, my throat tightening. "Sam, don't call me wife. It disgusts me." "What?" Sam froze. "I said you disgust me." After I said it, I looked straight at him. I watched as the despair filled Sam's eyes, and the faint glimmer of hope shattered. Dressed in a light pink suit, perhaps because he had planned to go to the happiest place on earth with the girl he liked, Sam looked tall and handsome. As refined as ever. From 18 to 28 years old, time hadn't left a mark on his face. He was still so dazzling, even more mature and composed now. And me? For 10 years, I tied my heart to him, my emotions rising and falling with his. I was consumed by fear and uncertainty, losing myself completely. I no longer wanted to live like this. I pulled the divorce papers, which I had long prepared, from my bag and handed them to him. "Sam, let's get divorced." Chapter 12. Sam's body swayed violently, almost unable to stand. His eyes suddenly turned red, and he let out a sob. "Ruby, you've given up on the baby. Are you going to give up on me too?" I closed my eyes for a moment, speaking softly. "Sam, it's been 7 years. I should have given up on you a long time ago. If I had known about your affair earlier, I wouldn't have waited this long to decide on a divorce. Do you think you hid it well? Foolishly thinking you could have women outside while keeping your marriage intact at home? Let me tell you, Your Miranda has already posted everything about your relationship online. If you had come home these past few days, you would have seen the note I left and known I wasn't home. Maybe you could have even saved our child." Sam's entire body trembled. Shaking his head repeatedly, he clutched the thin divorce papers. His eyes filled with regret. Crying hoarsely, like a child who's done something wrong, he kept repeating the same two phrases. "Forgive me. Forgive me, Ruby. I won't divorce you. I'll cut all ties with her. My dear Ruby, give me a chance. Let me make it up to you." I shook my head and firmly refused. "No, I'm not worthy. Do you know? Even though I knew about your affair, I was overjoyed when I saw you return home for the sake of our child. I knew you loved me, that you cared about the baby. Otherwise, you wouldn't have broken up with Miranda. But you think coming back to the family and liking Miranda aren't in conflict, don't you?" I had spoken so much, and I was truly exhausted. My patience had worn out. "Look over the property division terms. If everything looks fine, sign the divorce papers." But suddenly, Sam went crazy, tearing the divorce agreement to pieces in a frenzy. He hugged me tightly, almost manically. "I won't let you leave me. What I owe you, I will repay. Bit by bit. I'll cook for you every day, stay with you every night. I'll even donate blood, as long as I can see you." I frowned and was about to speak when Olivia interrupted. "Sam, do you not understand human language? Ruby said she doesn't want to see you. I'm here to take care of her, and if needed, we can hire a nurse. You staying here is only making it harder for Ruby to recover." Sam's eyes flashed angrily, ready to argue, but he was suddenly stunned by the entertainment news coming from the television behind him. Breaking! Corporate CEO secretly dating a social media star. Rumor has it they've rekindled their romance. It's the real-life story of a domineering CEO falling in love with a regular girl. People are obsessed. It seemed Miranda couldn't hold back anymore and was eager to make their relationship official. I smiled faintly. "Looks like you don't have time to stay with me anymore, Boss Sam. Oh, by the way, the last person I saw before I started hemorrhaging was Miranda." Chapter 13. Sam found Miranda at the beach house. As soon as he walked in, she hugged him from behind. "Sam, you're finally back. Do you know how panicked I was when you left me alone?" This time, Sam didn't return her embrace. Instead, he pushed her away and looked out the window. Outside was the vast, endless sea. Sam remembered this house. He bought it 5 years ago when property prices were at their highest. After buying it, he gave it to Miranda, and it became the love nest where they had tangled for so many years. Why did he buy this house in the first place? Sam couldn't quite remember. He didn't like the beach, too humid, with the salty air that wasn't pleasant to breathe. During high tide, the sound of waves crashing against the rocks was too loud. He was a light sleeper, and it disturbed his rest. But, in his memory, there was someone who liked it. She said she loved listening to the sound of the waves crashing, as if it brought her back to her childhood. As a child, her home was by the sea. When her parents returned from fishing, they would hold her as they sat on the breakwater, watching the tide rise and fall, and the clouds drift across the sky. She said she wanted to make their home by the sea. Her childhood home by the sea had her parents. Now, her home by the sea had the person she loved most. It was hard to find a house that met her expectations. At that time, property prices were high, and he had just taken over the company, so money was tight. He searched for 2 years before he found this one. The owners were an elderly couple. The house wasn't big, but it was filled with flowers. When they sold the house, the couple had just celebrated their golden wedding anniversary and were preparing to immigrate to live with their son. This house had witnessed their happiness, and they hoped to pass that happiness on to the next owners. There were many buyers, but Sam won the purchase by saying, "My wife loves the sea." Oh, he remembered now. It was Ruby who loved the sea. But why didn't he give the house to her? Why had he let another woman take over? Was it because the woman outside brought him excitement? He knew all along that Miranda's marriage was fake. Yet, he was consumed with jealousy, so much that he had foolishly gone to crash her wedding. Was he afraid of losing Miranda? No, he was afraid of losing the thrill of the affair. What a fool he had been. A bitter smile tugged at the corners of Sam's lips as he suddenly went mad. Rushing out into the garden was desolate. It was the height of summer, yet not a single flower was in bloom. Where are the flowers? Where are the flowers? Sam grabbed Miranda by the chin, his voice harsh as he demanded. Miranda's face turned pale, her beautiful eyes filled with terror. She clawed at Sam's hand, desperately trying to breathe. The flowers, cough, the flowers are gone. You said you didn't like the bugs, cough, so you told me to pull them out. Sam's hand suddenly loosened. A flood of regret surged through him, overwhelming him, making it impossible to control, impossible to escape. He collapsed to the ground, cradling the bare soil in his hands, whispering softly, "They're gone, gone, everything is gone." The flowers were gone. He hadn't taken care of the flowers that the elderly couple had left behind, nor had he let the one who truly loved them move in. So, the golden anniversary's happiness wasn't passed on to him. Ruby didn't want him anymore, either. He had no home. Chapter 14. Sam felt like a bastard. He had betrayed Ruby's sincere love, and he had wasted 10 years of her youth. He had always known how much Ruby suffered to have their child. When they first got married, Ruby went to see the doctor almost every week, and every time she came back from the hospital, she carried a large bag of medicine. She would even pull him along, insisting they stick to the schedule and complete their tasks. Once or twice, he was willing to cooperate, but as it went on, the intimate tasks began to feel tiresome and lost all meaning. He didn't enjoy it, and just then, Miranda appeared. She was bold and passionate, yet carried an innocence that came with being a student, captivating him completely. He quickly succumbed to her charm. The first time he booked a room with Miranda, he felt a moment of panic, but he reassured himself, it was just this once. Ruby would never find out, and even if Ruby did find out, so what? She loved him so much, she would surely forgive him, but he never imagined that this affair would last for 7 long years. Nor did he expect that Miranda would post everything about them online. Miranda, yes. If Sam was a bastard, then Miranda was the demon that lured him into the abyss. At that thought, Sam suddenly snapped, viciously slapping Miranda several times. "It's all your fault. You made me lose my child, lose my wife." But slapping her wasn't enough to vent his anger. Sam began punching and kicking Miranda. "Why did you have to post everything about me online? Why did you provoke Ruby? When Ruby was hemorrhaging, why didn't you go get a doctor? Do you know you almost killed her?" One punch after another, Sam hit her with all his strength, as if blaming everything on Miranda. Soon, Miranda was barely conscious. She wiped the blood from the corner of her lips and let out a chilling laugh. "Yes, I knew I was the other woman, and I'm not innocent. But what about you? It takes 2 to tango. If your will was strong, would you have cheated? Sam, you regret it now? Too late." Sam kicked Miranda again, spitting, "You bitch." Miranda's eyes rolled back, and she coughed up blood. But Sam wasn't done with her. He grabbed her, dragging her towards the car. "Go apologize to Ruby. If she doesn't forgive you, I won't let you go either." But Sam never made it to the hospital with Miranda. Their shouting had already disturbed the neighbors and beachgoers. When they saw blood, someone quickly called the police and 120 emergency services. By the time Sam dragged Miranda out of the yard, the police had surrounded him. "Someone reported you for assault. You're coming with us." It was all thanks to Miranda for leaking the story to the paparazzi. The crowd recognized the fighting pair as the trending entertainment news headline of the day. Is this the domineering CEO falls in love with me story? More like domineering CEO beats me to death. This is the fastest scandal I've ever seen unravel. Wait, isn't this Sam married? Isn't this woman the mistress? Cheating, abusive man, unfollow, unfollow, unfollow. Hearing the crowd's comments, Sam's eyes turned red. Ignoring the police, he tried to hit Miranda again, but the police held him back tightly. "Stay still." Sam's affair and assault on his mistress became the headline of the day. Chapter 15. The scandal blew up, and as it hit the trending topics, the company's reputation was in shambles. The next day, the stock price plummeted, And within a week, the market value evaporated by 50 billion yuan. Meanwhile, the results of Miranda's medical examination came in. Sam had severely injured her, rupturing her spleen. He had already broken the law. He was about to face sentencing. Sam's parents, who had always treated their only son as their lifeline, ran around everywhere trying to get him released on bail. They even wanted to find me, the daughter-in-law they had always looked down upon, to help Sam seek Miranda's forgiveness. But unfortunately for them, by the time they came to Sam's and my marital home, I had already moved out. Without Miranda's letter of forgiveness, Sam was sentenced a month later. He was convicted of intentional assault, causing grievous bodily harm, and sentenced to 7 years in prison. When the news reached me, I had already recovered and decided to embark on a world tour with my best friend, Olivia. I was going to make up for all the years I had lost being bound by marriage. Before leaving, I went to see him in prison. I slid the divorce papers through the small window. This time, Sam didn't hesitate. With his handcuffed hands, he picked up the pen and signed his name on the divorce papers. The company went bankrupt, and everything is being liquidated. We'll split the assets 50-50. I won't take more than what's fair. Use your time in prison to reflect. 7 years. How many 7 years do you get in life? I smiled, feeling at peace, and turned to leave. Behind me, I heard Sam's voice. Ruby, if I hadn't cheated, would things have turned out differently for us? I'm sorry. That day, when you said you wanted to see the sea, I didn't go with you. And when you needed me while you were hemorrhaging, I wasn't there either. I've already donated blood in prison. My blood couldn't save you, but it could save someone else. That gives me a bit of peace. Ruby, I really did love you. The last sentence was spoken with difficulty, filled with endless regret. I didn't look back, and I never would. The road ahead of me was bright and full of possibilities, and I would no longer be bound by anyone or anything. The world outside the detention center was so vibrant. The glow of the setting sun warmed my face. I closed my eyes and felt the lingering warmth of the September sunshine. Everything from the past was fading away. When I opened my eyes again, Olivia was standing on the side of the road, holding 2 suitcases and flashing a sweet smile at me. Ruby, time to catch our flight. I nodded firmly, taking one of the suitcases. I got into the taxi with her. I was ready to embrace my brand new life.